sharing this space tonight. This time, last night, we were all processing yet another damning revelation against the State College Police Department, DA Bernie Cantorna, Borough Manager Tom Fontaine, Captain Chris Fischel, and Police Chief Gardner. After almost 2 years, it did not come from their lips, but from the Osagie family legal team in a statement that will be read shortly. This is the living example that indeed justice delayed is justice denied. For nearly 2 years, they insisted that all policy was followed, insisted that our calls for transparency and accountability were cruel and unfounded, insisted that they had provided us multiple independent investigations and we were just unreasonable to assert otherwise. We called for the names of the officers and they fought us in every way imaginable, trying to vilify our reasonable asks with unreasonable responses. Now we see why they fought so hard. Just a few weeks after the release of the names, we learned that Officer 1 was not only utterly unfit to be at Osaze's door, but that the department had been made aware of this information, that Captain Fischel, who conducted the so-called internal investigation and cleared the officers, was the one notified about the officers' continued alcohol abuse and did nothing. I'm sure others will want to speak to this, so I won't spend any more time on it. We are here today, together, a community with eyes open, collectively acknowledging that those who posit themselves are protectors were indeed the murderers. With each new piece of information we receive, there is a communal ache. For some, the ache is betrayal, that those you have trusted have violated that trust. For some, the ache is knowing that being right in this moment does nothing to prevent it happening again. For others, that ache may be something completely different. Still, we are here together in this space, knowing that there is much work to be done. Sorry, I got to switch pages. I have been really reflecting on a quote. The dead cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so for them. Those officers thought, they really believed that what they did to Osaze would die in that hallway with his body. Those actions of those in positions of power upheld that belief and protected those officers above the community they promised to serve, that we pay them to serve. Osaze cannot be here beside us to fight this fight. We must decide together in these moments what will be left in the wake of what they have destroyed. We, the people, decide what justice looks like and what we will and will not accept. Because what we accept will continue, but that which we cannot accept must be transformed. If you have not already signed up to be on one of our committees, I call on you to do so now. I can add you to our listserv. Come up and talk to me. Do not wait. Do not assume the work is best left to others. The time is now. The work plentiful. We are the ones we have been searching for. Thank you. Maggie will now read the family's statement.
Hi folks, thank you for being here today. So we wanted to read to you the words from the Osagie family about this new information that's coming from this case. So a few of us are gonna read this for you. Today, Osaze Osagie's family amended their federal civil rights lawsuit to include alarming information detailing the State College Police Department's systemic failure to ensure that M. Jordan Pianezek, the officer who shot and killed their son on March 20th, 2019, was fit for duty prior to dispatching him to lead the SCPD's response to their son's critical mental health incident. According to the amended complaint, in the months, weeks, and days leading up to the shooting, SCPD Captain Christian Fischel received eyewitness information that Officer, how do you pronounce it? Pinasek. That Officer Pinasek had been engaging in serial acts of violence, which including the threatening use of a firearm and alcohol abuse. The amended complaint details that within days of Pinasek leaving a treatment facility, an eyewitness notified Captain Fischel that Officer Pinasek was drinking alcohol and behaving erratically and abusively. Yet Officer Pinasek was permitted to remain in uniform, armed and on duty, and he would shoot Osaze Osagie to death just days later. Upon learning about Officer Pinasek's condition at the time of the shooting, Osaze's parents, Silvesto and Iyunolu Osagie, stated that we now know that the SCPD's systemic failures dealing with mental health issues went beyond our son, and tragically including Officer Pinasek, who himself appears to have been in crisis and whose behavior was an unheeded cry for help. The Osagies added, the department failed this officer and consequently they failed our son. The department should never have permitted him to go back in service without providing checks and balances to ensure his fitness to serve and the public safety. Yum yum?
On November 2nd, 2020, the Osagie family filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the borough of State College, and John Doe police officers, descendants with the borough, has since publicly named the Osagie lawsuit, which is the State College Police Department, is a response to Osagie's father of a medication-related mental health crisis and had communicated alarming suicidal threats. According to the complaint, instead of ensuring Osagie's safety, the borough and the State College Police Department violated the Constitution. Excessive force prohibition when an officer, now known as Officer Pinasek, repeatedly shot him point blank in the back and his side. The suit alleges the borough and the SCPD violated the Americans with Disability Act and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 by discriminating against Mr. Osagie based upon his known mental health history. The family's legal team, which includes State College lawyers Kathleen Yorick and Andrew Shubin, Andrew Seeley, Earl World, and David Berman from the New York City-based Ernie Silly Bernenhoff Ward and Mazza law firm, announced Officer Pinasek was a ticking time bomb when the State College Police Department signed him to lead the response team. By the way, of first-hand eyewitness accounts, on March 20, 2019, Officer Pinasek was just 2 days out of rehab and still engaged in frightening behavior, armed with a badge, a uniform, and a gun. He was himself a threat to public safety. It cannot have come as a surprise to anyone who knew his history that he was the one who pulled the trigger 4 times and killed Osagie. The amendment complaint filed by the Osagie family told today the real story of why Osagie died on March 20, 2019. The amendment complaint allegedly State College Police Department should have never permitted that officer to function as part of the Critical Incident Team, CIT. The response as individuals like Osagie who are experiencing a mental health crisis as a fundamental and abhorrent The CIT training principle limited participation to a rigorously screened suspects and officers within a department who self-select and volunteer. The State Police Department gave PZNet every other officer CIT training and automatically deemed him fit to respond to any mental health crisis. Now it's standing his own and obviously red flags. Jeremy.
The Osagie family's amended complaint points to the defendant, Pinazek, as the, quote, perfect example, unquote, of the logic underpinning these limitations. Quote, given his history of alcohol abuse and erratic and violent behavior, the defendant, Pinazek, would never be an appropriate crisis response team member, unquote, and, quote, was particularly ill-suited for such an intervention when he was abusing alcohol, engaging in erratic and concerning behavior, had just left a rehab facility, and was on his third day back. Despite these dangerous circumstances, the SCPD did nothing to ensure his stability or fitness for duty prior to sending him out on and permitting him to lead the response to a critical mental health crisis incident. Unquote. In what appears to be an emerging public scandal, the SCPD appointed Captain Fischel to chair its Deadly Force Conduct and Procedures Review Board, the body tasked with conducting its internal investigation of the shooting. Captain Fischel also authored the board's report, which did not include any references to the eyewitnesses' fitness for duty information, which he was personally informed. In what appears to be a contradiction of the eyewitnesses' account provided directly to Captain Fischel, the SCPD has maintained the only prior complaint related to Officer Pinazek involved a dated excessive force allegation made by a college-age male. According to attorneys Yurchak and Shubin, quote, it's unconscionable that the SCPD appointed Captain Fischel, a critical witness who possessed urgent and emergent fitness for duty information to lead its investigation and offer its report, unquote. Yurchak and Shubin added, quote, a true and fair investigation would have required Captain Fischel to provide the eyewitness information to a neutral board and an unbiased chair. The Osagie family and the community at large had a right to know this information, and the SCPD had an obligation to provide it, unquote.
So everything we just heard, and especially since yesterday, has been incredibly difficult on so many members of the community. What happened to Osaze Osagie is a scandal. The fact that it was covered up by so many different levels points to systemic issues that are happening here and all over the country. We wanted to give folks the opportunity to come up here and express what this news means. We'll start first off with Dr. Errol Henderson, who has a few words for us. Dr. Henderson?
Oh, nice.
Thank you all for coming out. Thanks most to the brothers and sisters who've been involved in this from the start. Thanks so much to the 320 Coalition. And thanks so much to the leadership, especially of these folks, Tierra Williams, Nanre Nasiga, Melanie Morrison, Maggie Hernandez. Excuse me if I don't name everybody, but the fact that this has been led by so many members of the 320 Coalition and so many people who come out and supported them, most of us, residents, citizens of State College, or Pennsylvania in general, coming out here for 2 years now, trying to get these folks to do their own job. What is the message for tonight? You've been lied to. You've been lied to repeatedly. mostly from the efforts of these people, and especially starting with the family of Osaze Osagie, who were forced to build in the bloodshed of their son, just to get justice that most white folks in this town take for granted. You've been lied to. We've been lied to. From the very beginning, when Osagie is killed, coming to his door, in his own house, preparing the groceries that the police just saw him buy. When he was killed, when they covered the door, as he went to the door, and they shot and killed him, the blood was on their hands. The blood was on their hands. Those three murderers, officers 1, 2, and 3, whose names we now know, the blood was on their hands. But when the DA stands up and says the killing of that man in his own home was a tragedy for the Osagie family and for the officer that killed him, when the DA, Cortana, I always mispronounce his name, say his name right for me, y'all. Cantorna. I distort his name like he distort the facts. When Cantorna said it was a tragedy for both, as if killing somebody is the same as having your innocent child murdered. The blood was no longer just on the policeman's hand. Cantorna, the blood is on your hand. The blood, his blood, Osagie's blood is on your hand. When the borough council, when they refused to treat seriously the arguments and demands of the 320 Coalition and the Osagie family, when they refused to launch an actual independent investigation. None of those investigations were independent. None of them. You were lied to. When the borough council rejected that. When some of us went to the borough council and said the police, they didn't even interview Osagie's roommate. Did you know Osagie's roommate was there when he was killed? The police never interviewed him. I asked the policeman, why didn't he? He said he didn't think he had to. That's what he said to me. When the borough council allowed that, Osagie's blood was on their hands. Now Osagie's blood is on their hands. Those who said there was an independent investigation, Osagie's blood is on your hands now. It was on the hands of the police killers. Now it's on the hands of the borough council. It's on the hands of the police department. When Penn State University did nothing in response. You know if Penn State would have told them to release those names, they would have released those names the next week. When Penn State did nothing, Penn State University, Osagie's blood is on your hands. Osagie's blood is on the hands of those who continue to lie to us, continue to try to trick you, tell you in the media that the folks out here is a bunch of fanatics, or a bunch of this or a bunch of that, while borough council makes jokes when white supremacists issue death threats in their own meeting to the 320 Coalition, who's been nothing but peaceful. When white supremacists issue death threats, they made jokes. When their friends went and made insurrection at the Capitol, only then did the borough council make any proclamation. But none of those white supremacists right here, the blood is on your hand. His blood, Osagie's blood, is on your hand as you covered up these crimes. You're complicit in them. We demand redress for the Osagie family. More than that, justice. What does justice look like? You first got to realize your hands are bloody. We need an actual independent investigation. We need recognition of what the 320 Coalition has been demanding all along. It's been 2 years. 2 years for this. And they still didn't put out the name. They were compelled to. What did they know? And when did they know it? They're complicit in this. Don't stop here. Meet and demand. Make these demands. Join with the efforts of the 320 Coalition. But don't stop. What they do, they wait you out. It took 2 years to see how much of a lie this was already. That should motivate you. Don't let them wait you out. And last, when you hear us in the media itself, these right-wing Sinclair broadcasters, old Trump supporters with a microphone and camera, who wouldn't cover the story accurately. Osage's blood is on your head. If we understand that, then our actions should be toward justice. I ain't nobody but a citizen of State College, Pennsylvania, okay? But I'm telling you, this is injustice. This is lying. This is murder. It was murder 2 years ago. Osage's blood is on the hands of his police killers and those who've been complicit in supporting them. The borough council, the chief of police, those people who came here pretended there was an independent investigation. We call for justice for Osaze Osagie.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henderson, for those powerful words. Tiara?
3 shots in the back.
How do you justify that?
3 shots in the back.
How do you justify that?
Say his name.
Osaze Osagie.
Say his name.
Osaze Osagie.
Say his name.
Osaze Osagie.
I want to thank everyone who has come out here tonight and who has been with us throughout all of the protests, all of the marches, all of the occupations, the sit-ins, the emails, the calls, the borough council meetings. All of that has brought us to this point. I was told that if I spoke out here tonight, that I might not get support from the community and other things that I do. But I'm not going to let anyone stop me from speaking against the 3 murderers who killed Osaze Osagie.
Yes.
I think it's really ironic that the officer who went to go answer this 302 mental health warrant was clearly dealing with some mental problems himself. The State College Police Department is guilty. This is a cover-up. There is no other word to use. This is a cover-up. This is a cover-up. And what we are not going to do is stand by while the police officers, DA Cantorna, or anyone else tries to talk away Osaze's murder as a suicide. It was not a suicide. It was a murder. I am mad as hell.
Yes.
And what I'm more upset for is the mother and the father of Osaze Osagie, who had to file a civil suit just to get these officers' names. And it's obvious why they weren't put out. Because then it would show how complacent this city, the mayor, the borough manager, the DA are in covering up when white police officers shoot and gun down black men.
Yep.
We are not going to stop fighting. We are not going to stop yelling, preaching, protesting, screaming for justice for Osaze Osagie. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Thank you, Tiara.
You're just hungry.
The folks of the 320 Coalition who've been doing this for 2 years are the ones that know the extent of this cover-up. If you have the opportunity to, you can read the entire case of what it says. The people at the State College Borough, the DA's office, members of the State College Police Department knew that the officer that murdered Osagie was not fit for duty. They were completely aware of the fact that he had just come out of rehab. They were aware of everything as they were telling us at every moment that they were not going to concede, that they were not going to give us the names of these people. Their concern and the fact that it took a civil suit to get these names, like Tiara said, but also a civil suit for us to understand the mental state in which this officer was in is a disgrace. This city and what they have been doing to cover up this is a disgrace. Within the court documents, there are individuals that were witnessing the Officer One's tendencies, violent tendencies. And when the witnesses brought this up to Fischel, which is now named, an individual who is now named in the case, he specifically said that this information would complicate things. Of course it would complicate things, because it means that Officer One was not fit for duty, because all of the lines of people that had to be there in order to ensure that our community is protected did nothing. This is the reason that Osagie was murdered, and the fact that every single layer of government in this area, in this city, is complicit in that. It is a scandal. This is a cover-up. And do not let this information pass you by. That is why we are here today.
Yes.
We are here today because we need you all to know this. We need you all to be there for us. We need you all to continue showing up, to continue pushing for these officers to be held accountable. We need you to actually realize justice for Osagie. That is why we do this. We will not be silent. Repeat after me. We will not be silent.
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 I know that I am one of many people that has had an emotional response to this. And it cannot be as painful as the Osagie family's response. It cannot be as painful as the people that knew Osagie, or that have been involved in this fight since the moment he was murdered. Fight with us. Stand with us. Be there for us when we call you. Because through numbers we have power. Thank you.
Osagie was not murdered.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
Come back here and say it. Yes, he was.
We don't need people like you.
Yes.
We have each other. You can move along.
Go fuck yourself. Sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm going to be brief. I'm one of the folks who's here since the beginning. And I just want to take a moment to remind everyone when this started. And when I say this, I mean the lies. On March 21st, a Thursday, the day after Osaze Osagie was shot and murdered by the State College Police about a mile in that direction, Sergeant William Slayton of the State College Police, Pennsylvania State Police, of the Heritage Department, stood in this spot, and said, do not connect what has happened here with everything happening nationally. The night after Osaze was murdered, the night after, this started from minute one, and they knew from minute one. I have been here since that time. I have been speaking since that time. I have never raised my voice. It's not my voice that's most important. It's the Osagie family.
Yes.
It's the people of color who see themselves and their family members in this act, in this cover-up. It's the people with family members and themselves who have disabilities, who have mental health conditions, who have autism. This cannot stand. this heinous act. Domestic violence is an excellent predictor of gun violence, in case you didn't know. Addiction causes a response in the amygdala, our threat detection system, where it is sedated by the drug of choice. It causes poor decision making when the person is without their substance of choice. The amygdala increases its activity. It makes handling stress very difficult. It makes decisions under stress go wrong. And this is the state the person was in who the State College Police thought appropriate to send on a mental health crisis call to transport someone for emergency evaluation for inpatient commitment. Someone who is in danger. Someone who the response was intended to be for the sole purpose of safeguarding life. And this is the man they sent. When Dr. Henderson says there is blood on the hands of the State College Police Department, he is literally correct. Every single person who could have and should have stood in the way, of this man being given a gun, a badge, and responding to mental health crisis calls 2 days out of rehab. Every single person who failed to prevent that is complicit. They are just as complicit as the man who pulled the trigger, who should have been receiving help and not put in the position of killing someone. I also want to remind folks, when the State College Police Department did their investigation into whether there was racial bias in this investigation, how many days backwards and forwards did they look at the messaging to tell? Anybody remember? 3 days. 3 days back and forward through Officer Pinazak's messages to see, was there any reference to racial bias? He was out of rehab 2 days prior to shooting Osaze. This investigation has been corrupt and intentionally so from the minute it started. Join with us. Join with us. Come with us. There is so much work to be done. We need to be out here on these streets saying these words and letting people know. We need to be in the borough council meetings telling them what we want and what we need. We need to be telling them that on January 15th, when multiple borough council members talk about the community oversight board and say, do we really need that? Do they need to have the power to investigate? Do they really? People don't believe the investigations either. What's the point? That is a direct quote from Teresa Lafer. When they say these things, we need to tell them, this is why. This is why. Thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Osaze's life matters! Osaze's life matters! Osaze's life matters!
We have another community member that's going to share some words as well.
I'm going to apologize that I have like 5 masks on and I can't see without my glasses. So, how many of you guys have counted the police cars driving around? I prefer if you didn't take my picture, man.
4 so
Thank
far.
you. At least 4 fucking police cars. Do you feel safe with them driving around as we gather here?
No.
Clearly, it has been proven that the State College Police Department is either incompetent or malicious. Honestly, it's probably fucking both.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm getting frustrated here. Alright, so those of you that know me know I'm a big fan of what's called zines. There's these short little things kind of slammed together, usually bring things down to an understandable level here. So, I'm going to read something called 12 Things to Do Instead of Calling the Cops. Number 1, don't feel obligated to defend property, especially corporate private property. You see that fucking Target over there? They don't give a shit about you. Don't bother defending that. Before confronting someone or contacting the police, ask yourself if anyone is being hurt or endangered by property, theft, or damage. If the answer is no, let it be. 2, if something of yours is stolen and you need to file a report for insurance or other purposes, consider going to the police department station instead of bringing the cops into your community. Do you really want to see one of those 5 cops that have been circling around here coming into your home in your area? I sure as hell don't. 3, if you observe somebody exhibiting behaviors that somewhat seems odd to you, don't assume that they are publicly intoxicated. Intoxication suits or whatever the hell they are, citation, that's policing morality. Help your neighbor. Don't call the cops on them. Sorry, my hands are cold. Yeah, I can only print single-sided.
You got it.
4, if you see someone pulled over with car trouble, stop and ask them to help. Don't necessarily call the police on them to stop with their car trouble. Try to help them, find help for them if you can. It's not hard to jump a car, it's not hard to change a tire. I don't know about you, my dad didn't teach me that. I would love it if my car had a flat tire, someone would come to help me instead of having to call the cops or the police or AAA or fuck that shit. 5, keep a contact list of community member resources like suicide hotlines. When the police are called to manage such situations, people with mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed by cops than those without health challenges. Do I need to read that one again, considering why we're here? 6, check your impulse to call the police on someone you believe is acting suspicious. Is their race, gender, ethnicity, class, housing situation influencing your choice? Such calls can be a death sentence. Again, we're here. 7, encourage teachers, co-workers, and organizers to avoid inviting police into classrooms, workspaces, and public spaces. We've gathered here in the summer during occupations. We've successfully created police-free zones. We can do that in the entirety of the community. 8, if your neighbor's having a party and the noise is bothering you, don't fucking call the cops. Politely ask them to turn the music down or whatever. 9 times out of 10, they will. I've done this, and I'm incredibly anxious in social scenarios. You can do it too. 9, if you see someone peeing in public, look away. We don't have public bathrooms. If you're homeless, sometimes you have to go. It happens. That's not worth calling the cops. 10, hold and attend de-escalation, conflict resolution, first aid, volunteer medics, and self-defense workshops in your neighborhood. Again, we've done this here in our community. We have folks that do de-escalation. We have folks who are trained in various first aid and medical treatment. Hell, I even got my fucking first aid kit up with me here. Because unfortunately, I'm sorry for all the swearing I keep recording this. Again, street art is beautiful. Graffiti's not worth calling the police on. No reason to call someone for going and tagging something in a tasteful way. If it's hate speech, fuck that, clean it up yourself, and get somebody else to come out and make something nice out of it. You can't be the first people that have seen something awful and make something beautiful from it. And the last one here, remember that police can escalate domestic violence situations. Again, what's his face is, he is a domestic abuser. The officer, Dr. Kian is, not doctor, fuck that. Officer Kian is dick, whatever the fuck his name was. He's not gonna help you. We need to come together as a community. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you!
No justice!
No peace!
Thank you so much. The reason, I hope that everyone sees the reasons why we had our friend here give these suggestions. When incidents like the ones he described, when the police are involved, that results in the harm and the death of Black and brown community members. Take that advice seriously, because we don't know what will happen when the police are called. And we need to make sure that we are protecting the people in our community that are the most targeted from the hate of the SCPD. Now, to finish up today, we have our last speaker, one of the co-leads of the 320 Coalition, Nan Ray.
And she is a doctor, so you can call her doctor.
Yes!
Dr. Nan Ray.
Yes! What's it
How to fight. We gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on?
We're on the freedom side, people. We're on the freedom side. When I quoted the article that was released today, I quoted something that Martin Luther King often quoted. And it's not his, but he quoted it a lot, and I'm going to quote it today. Truth crushed to the earth shall rise again. And Maya Angelou also said, like air, we will rise. And I don't know if we're all here people of faith, but the circumstances that are upon us, we know that something is happening. We know that the truth is coming out. And bit by bit, brick by brick, the entire truth will come out. And nothing is going to stop that truth from rising. Nothing is going to stop that truth from rising. So we continue to fight on the streets, but as some of us have spoken here today, we need to also start to create alternatives. What is the community that would have kept Osaze safe? What is Osaze's community? How do we build a community for Osaze? We're coming up to his anniversary, the anniversary of his death, not the anniversary of him coming into this world. But as we move towards it, I want us to all ask the question, how can we make this Osaze? How can we make this Osaze's community? How can we build a community where Osaze would have been cared for, where he would have been safe, where nothing would have happened to him? What do we need to do to make that a reality? So that all black people, all brown people, all people with different abilities, all people with mental health issues like we all have, are safe. On Friday, we're going to be marching down to Bellefonte. We're going to ask D.A. Cantona the question that he needs to be asked, which is, why the cover-up? Why the silence? And we know the answers, but we want him to answer. We want him to tell us why these officers continue to walk the streets even though we know what they did. Justice for
Osaze!
Don't give up hope. Keep fighting. We're gonna do so much more. And we're gonna build a community, Osaze's community, here in State College. Thank you. The rally is at 12 o'clock, and it's gonna be in Bellefonte. And if you need a ride, let us know. We'll try to work it out despite COVID issues. But yeah, we're going to be on Friday at 12 o'clock. So we're going to be holding a series of online things as well to accommodate all those who can't come out, because we understand that as well. So thank you all both here present, and thank you those of us who are watching this online. Let's continue to fight. Let's continue to build Osaze's community. Thank you. That's all, folks. Peace. Stay safe.
Oh. No peace! Police! No peace!